A shooting at the White House, a major injunction in a court about unemployment benefits, and confirmation about your second stimulus check. Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Evenings LALATE. Hope you're great and safe. This is Monday edition, our 1-hour programming block every night at 6:45 that starts with a check and goes to EIDL. Watch that EIDL video tonight because I will be addressing members of Congress on what has to be done to change EIDL going forward. But the day started out incredibly wonderful as Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary to Donald Trump, appeared on Morning News, CNBC, the broadcast news for business, and confirmed this channel is reporting for over 2 weeks, especially about the number one question you have. Yes, the second stimulus check. He confirmed that he and Nancy Pelosi reached an agreement, a deal about the second stimulus check over 2 weeks ago. The amount, the eligibility, the time of delivery, the manner of delivery, everything. And that the check would and could and still can arrive to you in the month of April. Let me get right to the details. Steve Mnuchin confirmed that he and Nancy Pelosi reached an agreement about a $1,200 second stimulus check. It's one check and it's $1,200. The eligibility terms are what this channel first reported. Eligibilities are all citizens, are all people in the United States, whether or not dependents or non-dependents, where you're a child dependent or an adult dependent, you would all get a second stimulus check. This was great news because this is a clear digression from the first stimulus act, which did not pay a stimulus check to anyone who is an adult dependent. This time around, the Republicans and Democrats agreed $1,200 to all recipients. It appeared that, in Mnuchin's words, that the minor dependents, which the Republicans initially proposed at $500, would get a $1,200 check as well, and that the check's eligibility terms would mirror that of the Democrats, which had called for no deduction for child support. Next, the delivery terms were also confirmed, that the delivery terms would come in the manner in which you already received your first stimulus check, or in the manner in which you receive your benefits if you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and railroad benefits. This is incredible great news. The reason why it's such great news is that the IRS knows where the recipients of benefits are, and the IRS can route the second stimulus check to you in the same manner in which you receive your benefits, as Mnuchin confirmed. So if you receive your benefits by electronic means, either debit card or direct deposit, you would receive your second stimulus check that way as well. If you receive it by paper check, same thing. And if you're not on benefits, the same thing if the IRS has records of your bank account for purposes of refunds, rebates, things like that. Really, really great news. Then the routing times. The routing times were first detailed on this channel as well and were confirmed today as well. The routing times would start backwards to the present as follows. You would count 3 days for electronic delivery. You would count 3 days for the bank to process the electronic receipt. 3 days. You would add to that 7 days from the date in which the bill is signed by the president for the IRS to send the money to your bank. So 3 plus 7, we're at 10. And then you would add the number of days for Congress, namely the Senate, to vote to ratify the agreement of Nancy and Steve, 2 days. And you might want to add 1 additional day for the president to sign the bill, or half day. So what's really great news about it is that under this timeline, you could still get the second stimulus check by electronic means in the month of August. You would not get it the second week of August. You would likely get it more towards the end of August, which this channel has been reporting for over a month. More confirmation there. If you're on paper check, you would receive it the first week of September. What's also great news is that this is consistent with Steve Mnuchin said several weeks ago, which this is not the final stimulus check. This is just a stimulus check for now. He was clearly in digression from Mitch McConnell and his ridiculous words over the last 3 weeks where, don't come back to me ever again, this is the final stimulus package. Steve Mnuchin said, no, America's hurting. A lot of people are unemployed for no reason of their own, but that their jobs are no longer there. And we need to give them a relief. And this is not to be said as their final stimulus check. So when would the next stimulus check come? Really, really great news. The day was all over the place. It also featured incredible confirmation from Steve Mnuchin on so many other things. But really, what this channel has been detailing, and boy, I've seen the numbers and the viewership numbers today. They've been absolutely through the roof. We're pushing about 1.5 million views in the next 48 hours. 65,000 people an hour. Let me tell you, the scandals about the state bailouts is just incredulous. What happened is the following. In the first stimulus package, states have been on lockdown. They depend upon the income of the businesses in their states. So these states were on lockdown, and their businesses were on lockdown. When the lockdown emerged, the states said to the federal government, hey, we need money. We can't survive. We're not getting income from our business because the business shut down. So Steve Mnuchin, the White House, and the Congress issued a first stimulus package, and that included an enormous bailout of states. Now, Steve Mnuchin kept track of how much money each state got, and that money was to be delegated for rent for its citizens, food for its citizens, hazard pay for its citizens, employment for its citizens, payroll for its citizens. The money was not to be used to the states to just go and mow the lawn, to make it very simple. It wasn't given to states to just, pay their electric bill. It was to be paid to you, the citizens of their states. Well, what happened? And what I reported all throughout today, shockingly, has been confirmed by the viewers in comments after comments after comments. What happened was that state firefighters laid off, state employees laid off, city firefighters laid off, city public works employees laid off, transportation, sanitation laid off, either laid off, asked to quit, or early termination or early retirement. They weren't supposed to do that. They had the money from the federal government to not do that. The other group that did that as well was the airlines. And so the airlines got all this money for you and didn't give it to you. Here we sit at a little bit past 6 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, and we now know that your second stimulus check was not approved because the second time around this month, since May, the states have come back and said, give us more money. Mnuchin said, well, no, we're not giving you any more money. You had the money from before. You didn't give it to the citizens. You didn't give it for rent. You didn't give it for payroll. You didn't give it to... You fired people. You fired people. How dare you? We're not giving you another penny. And ultimately, Nancy Pelosi said, you have to give us money. She says, no, I'm not giving you another penny. They still have the money. And your stimulus check was held ransom. You couldn't get your stimulus check, which you're owed, because these states and these horrible governors who couldn't balance their budgets were coming back and saying, give me more money, when they never gave you, the citizens of the state, money the first time around. What makes it so difficult to report, because it's so egregious, is that I have users who want hazard pay. I have viewers that qualified for unemployment assistance, that want stimulus checks, that need rent. All those things were given to the states in the first stimulus package, and they didn't give it to you. What they did was they gave you a pink slip. And so these people are back again saying, give me more money, and your stimulus check is being held ransom. Your hazard pay money was agreed to upon. That was the other revelation today. Nancy and Steve had reached an agreement on hazard pay. They had reached an agreement upon rent assistance, whether it's rent eviction moratorium or rent grants or mortgage forbearance. They had reached an agreement, and to tell you the truth, as I had reported for over 2 weeks, they had agreed to FPUC as somewhere between $300 to $600 a week, likely landing at $400 to $500 a week. They just couldn't get that done because of this other problem. And that is why no deal was reached, because greedy states who had not paid you what they were supposed to pay you the first time around were back like a movie, like the musical Oliver, saying, give me more, I'm hungry. And it actually got worse. It got worse because in the last week, Nancy Pelosi has been talking about children, going hungry, children going hungry, and children going hungry. But nothing about bailing out states has anything to do with children. Your stimulus check has to do with children. Your hazard pay has to do with your family, and similar. And so ultimately, the really great news as we sit here on a Monday afternoon, is that the parties are suddenly realizing that this was a hot mess express. This was not just one train on the track of the hot mess express. It was 20 of them. And as it went down Washington Avenue, some people the states thought they could get away with a ransom. And they thought that the viewers of this channel would not realize that they haven't gotten their stimulus check from people who had agreed to a stimulus check. And that sounds really weird. It sounds really weird that people of both sides of the political spectrum had agreed upon a stimulus check but hadn't sent it out. Why? Because Nancy Pelosi said we're not going to piecemeal the bill. We're not going to send out a second stimulus check by itself, which, that's sort of crazy unto itself. But we're going to hold it up for something else. And we didn't know what that something else was until I started reporting it last Friday. A $1 trillion bailout for the states. Your stimulus check was held up. Your hazard pay was held up. Your FPUC was held up. And your rent assistance was held up. And then came Saturday, the executive orders, which, whatever you call them, aren't anything. They really aren't anything. Some people are very cynical of the president. Some people are very supportive of the president. I'm not going to use an adjective to describe what I think is why they were presented. What I'm supposed to inform you about is their effectiveness, so you are informed whether or not it's giving you something. They're not. First of all, the FPUC is not lawful, so it's not going to actually ever give you a penny. States are not going to pay under the FPUC. The FPUC has these strange requirements of the executive order, but the bottom line is the federal government cannot, the President of the United States cannot order the Treasury to send out money, and he cannot order states to send you money. So it's going to be invalidated. The Democrats are going to go to court, and it'll be invalidated within 24, 48 hours. But the bottom line is, come off of it already. I mean, the two sides already agreed to $400 to $600. Just sign the bill. I mean, it's like, why are we spending time in court? Just get it done. The other thing that's important to understand, and this is so critical, is that the executive order as to eviction moratoriums is not an eviction moratorium. It does nothing. It does not ensure you about anything. In fact, it's not an eviction moratorium. It actually only says that you're supposed to address your concerns to the head of HUD if you have a question. That's real cute. Call someone up and say, I have a question. I'm homeless. I have a question. I wish you were around, 3 weeks ago when I would have thought I had an eviction moratorium, but I have a question. Not good, not now. Bottom line is we are set up for something very good, and what's going to happen is the following. Nancy and Steve are going to get back in the room. They've said that they have both confirmed they're going to be doing that. The issue is twofold. One, Mark Meadows, and one, Mark Meadows to the states. Mark Meadows will likely not be invited back in the room because he's really not getting along with people in the room, and his antics are just too much. Second, Nancy Pelosi has to get rid of that insane $1 trillion bailout to the states. It's just unwarranted. And when the parties do that, guess what? They've already confirmed they've agreed to everything, including your check. So you could see your check in the month of August. Now, what else happened later today, in a day that everything seemed to go off the rail? There was a shooting at the White House, but it was not on the White House grounds. So I want to make that very clear to viewers. It was not on the White House grounds. It was not in the White House. It was not on the White House property. It was outside of the White House property. No one was injured. The president cut short his press briefing and then came back in shortly thereafter. Everything was fine. What's the big news of the day, of this afternoon, that no one covered except me, because this is a bombshell. This is so hideously critical, is a decision out of a California court about unemployment assistance in the context of Uber and Lyft. Yes, this was not an injunction about the executive order, as everyone would be thinking, like, goodness. This was an injunction about unemployment assistance in COVID-19 as to Uber and Lyft. If you've been with this channel for a while, I detailed this for many, many, many weeks. And members of Congress actually initially had a bill about this as well. The issue is the following. Uber and Lyft classifies its drivers as independent contractors. By classifying them as drivers as independent contractors, when they were impacted by COVID-19, they had to go to the states to apply for PUA, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. They couldn't apply for UI because UI is for employees. Uber and Lyft was not calling them employees, they're calling them independent contractors. That's the way they would get PUA, and then they would get the FPUC, the $600 per week. That was then. California didn't have it. California didn't like it. California state governor and San Diego's city attorney and Los Angeles city attorney, who I know quite well, is a wonderful person, all went to court and said, no, Uber and Lyft, your drivers are not independent contractors. Your drivers are employees who you've just called independent contractors to do certain things that are improper. And the judge issued an injunction. What does that mean? The judge ordered Uber and Lyft to now qualify its drivers in the state of California within 10 days as employees. This is huge for purposes of unemployment assistance, PUA and UI, and everything about it. And I'll tell you why. Because basically, Uber and Lyft, by classifying its workers as independent contractors, did not have to pay payroll assistance to states. And and the way it works is when you have an employee, like let's say you're Macy's and you have a Macy's employee, you pay payroll tax for that employee to the state. So in the event that the employee gets laid off, there's benefits there for that employee. Well, in the case of Uber and Lyft, they classified everyone as independent contractors, so there was no benefits with the states when the Uber and Lyft drivers got unemployed during the pandemic. And the states were irate. It says, we don't have funds to pay PUA to hundreds of thousands of Uber and Lyft drivers. So they sued, and they got a temporary injunction. It's not a permanent injunction, but it's a temporary injunction. What this means going forward for you is that if you are an Uber or Lyft driver in another state, or you work in an environment in which you really think you're an employee and not an independent contractor, this decision is front and center for members of Congress who are watching it before and talking about it before to say, hey, these people might be entitled to a lot more benefits. There was originally a proposal to give upwards of $1,000 to $2,000 per Uber and Lyft driver in a second stimulus package. I detailed that for weeks. The lawsuit alleges that every Uber and Lyft driver is entitled to at least $2,000 for misclassification as an independent contractor, plus benefits going forward. It's a lot of money. It's a massive decision, and it impacts PUA and UI in the context of second stimulus, because this was something the Republicans and the Democrats wanted to slide into the stimulus package. Boy, coming up tomorrow morning on Mornings LALATE is more about the shocking details of where this stimulus package is going. There's been a lot to digest, and I understand it. And sometimes I've talked a little quickly today, and I apologize. Mornings LALATE was the most watched video ever in the broadcast of Mornings LALATE, which I think is at second week now. Today, as of this afternoon, the highest per hour viewership ever of this channel in its entire history. The numbers are absolutely through the roof, but the situation is very fluid and changing dramatically. Go to the front of this channel. There's a subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button and hit the alert button next to it, because there's so much happening, whether it's a shooting at the White House or a decision about Uber and Lyft. I'm literally sending out messages to you so you know these things as they hit. I'm here to inform you and keep you educated and keep you inspired, because there's so much here. Finally, and I detailed this earlier today, and I really think I have to do it again. There are some channels out there that are confusing viewers about several subjects concerning the second stimulus check. They are first taking unemployment assistance, FPUC, which is currently in the executive order at $400 a week, which we understand that number, 400, and we all know there's 4 weeks in a month, unless you're Larry Kudlow. So they're taking 4 weeks in a month times 400, and they're saying the president is sending you out a stimulus check for $1,600. There's something so bad about that, because one, it makes you think that you're getting literally a $1,600 check. Two, it makes viewers think that everyone is getting a $1,600 check, whether you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, or Railroad benefits, when you're not. The context of the $400 is for people who are on UI and PUA, and if you're not on it, why are these people using a word, stimulus check, 2 words, stimulus check, and putting it with something that's not? Three, a lot of people don't even qualify for PUA and UI. And finally, people are very dependent on funds now. And for people to think that everyone is getting $1,600 starting this week or starting this month is just hideously untrue. And so I apologize. And so please stay with me, because I'm here to make sure you get correct information. You might not like the shirts. You might not like the theme song. You might not like, the way the hair is brushed, but at least you got the right information on a given day. Stay with me. Next up is a big bombshell for EIDL. As always, stay informed, inspired, and focused and motivated. And stay with LA for more.